ready to clown with a nigga from the D-town. I put it down like straight and Eminem. What I'm giving them, game that's infinite. Never forget me, bitch. Whether I'm rich or a pissy poor, whether I love all ladies or just all whores, whether I rock the top in a dubbed out coupe, whether I take you out to eat or the red soup. It really don't matter at all. DJ Assault, aka Craig Diamonds, y'all. So what you saying? We gon' get naughty, y'all. Ready to party with the girls with naked bodies, y'all. Okay. So strip tease, get on your knees. I'll be at the clubs when the cops yell freeze. Illegal shit we gon' leave confidential. This is what I'm giving you over this instrumental. Something to shake your ass to. Something to make that cash to. Something to shake your ass to. Something to make that cash. What I'm giving them, something to shake your ass to. Something to make that cash to. Something to shake your ass to. Something to make that cash. Came in the club like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to The Conspiracy Castle. I'm your conspiracy asshole. And tonight is a lovely night to unplug from the Matrix. That's right, I have a very personal guy I look up to, a guy I like. You know, I really respect the guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a lot smarter than me. He's going to realize I'm kind of a dumbass. But I don't care. I'm Primetime 99, Alex Stein. And Jay will also learn that, which will be excellent. So I just want to say, with all that, I didn't want to waste my time doing a big intro because I want to bring the main man on himself. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Mr. Dyer, how are you doing this evening, Jay?
Good. I just was sitting here twerking, shaking my thick with 2 C's butt, like that ass. That song got me going, dude.
Yeah, so that's DJ Assault. That guy is a ghetto tech DJ out of Detroit. He's a truther. He's come on my show, so I try to pump him up. DJ Assault, mad respect. You can buy his whole catalog, djassault.com. It's $60, I think, for like 85 songs. But Jay, I gotta say, for the people that, you know, I wanted to tell you all this before. I have to be a little bit of a fanboy, even though it's just a homo. I'm saying, Jay, when I listened to your stuff with Dave McGowan, and that's where, like, when I got into Dave McGowan, and that's how I found you, Jay. And then I got into your esoteric Hollywood stuff. Blew my mind. Because what it did is I knew that. See, when I graduated from college at LSU, let me just tell you a little bit of my backstory. I moved to California, and I was like an extra on a bunch of shows, like The Office. You know, I booked a couple of commercials, and I was on some big movies, Spider-Man, you know, featured, and, you know, got some tight, you know, speaking roles in commercials. But I saw Hollywood from the behind the scenes, you know, like, people will suck a casting director's dick to be a featured extra on the worst show, on some crappy show, you know. It's
and
so
that's part of your story.
Well, I didn't suck any dick, but what I'm saying is I saw that, and I saw that, you know.
I thought you were saying my bio, and then you're including all this. I'm just joking with you.
I know. Well, I'm about to talk you up. I just want to say is the Hollywood connection is what really sparked mine. Is you had dissected Hollywood so much. I'm learning all this after the fact. I wasn't woke while I was living in Hollywood. So seeing your dissection of it for me was extra special. It was extra cool. I was like I was living in Hollywood again. So for me, I just want to say I know that intro is about myself. I need to shut the fuck up, shut the front door. Excuse me. I just want to say thank you for being on the castle and thank you for all your amazing work, Jay.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I did. I think when I first followed you on Twitter, I think I noticed that you had sent a video that you were on a reality show. Was it a cooking show, or I'm trying to remember what it was. No, a dating show.
Well, I've been on a bunch of reality shows. I worked for the show Cheaters here in Dallas. I signed an NDA, but that shows we catch people cheating on their husbands and wives. So you can kind of dissect what I was doing for that show. I was basically, you know, one of the producers for that show.
Were you the cheater?
No, I was the one that found I'm the one that found the cheaters.
Oh, so you weren't the gigolo. I thought you.
Yeah, well, I was like the private detective, basically. But what I'm saying is, so I worked there in college, so I kind of had the reality TV scoop, and then I ended up going to Hollywood, getting on some reality TV shows there. It's trash. It's the lowest common denominator, Jay. You know, it is what it is. But I was young. I wanted to do it. I want to be an entertainer. You know, I want to be a broadcaster. But I didn't really have a direction, you know, so I went on those reality TV shows. A lot of crazy experiences. We could talk about those all day. But and the dating one, what was it? Do you remember what happened on that you remembered me from? The video?
No, I mean, am I remembering it correctly? I don't remember what.
I was on a dating show. I was on a dating show.
That was it. I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
It was fucked up. It was an online dating show on Bravo. It was kind of cool though. I got to go. See, that's how I got a taste of the Hollywood flavor. I got to be a guest on the Today Show. And so they fly you out to New York first class. They put you in I met Charles Barkley as I'm checking into my hotel. But this isn't about me, Jay. I don't want to talk about me. I'm a loser.
Was that fun or what? Was it like shitty or fun?
It was awesome for your ego at the time, but it was very draining. And like, it's like I can tell Jay, I want an interview so bad. I'm all excited, but you do so many interviews, it's draining, it's tiring. And it's especially draining when you're doing those fake bullcrap style interviews. It's different. It's even worse because you're going, and they make it like my morning, wake up at 6 a.m., went on the Today Show, or we had to wake up earlier than that. Then for lunch, we went and had this nice lunch at Ruth's Chris. They have a big picture of my favorite thing. I loved how you dissected The Sopranos. They have like a big picture of The Sopranos inside the Ruth's Chris at 30 Rockefeller Center. You're ordering a 32-ounce bone-in ribeye. You can have alcohol if you want. I mean, it's lunchtime. I think I maybe got a beer at the time. It was just a cool experience, but it was intoxicating. And I can see why these celebrities sell their souls because they want that constantly, I believe.
I had Ruth's Chris 2 nights ago, and that black woman in there poisoned me.
What that, sometimes they're not that good. I went to LSU in Baton Rouge. That's where Ruth's Chris started. And that was like the best restaurant. Ruth's Chris isn't that fucking good. I mean, come on. I don't even eat meat anymore, Jay. I stopped eating red meat. I'm that woke.
Dude, I'm carnivore. That's all I eat.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm anti you. We're not the same. Like, because I hear you always talk about.
Why do you, hold on, why? Why do you?
Oh, for me, it's weird. Okay, so I was doing the keto. I lost a bunch of weight, and then my digestion was terrible. Like I just couldn't hardly take a crap, right. And so I was like, I'm just gonna try meatless, and I did it slow. Dude, my digestion, because you're eating carbs, I got fatter because your body just absorbs the sugar and the carbs and the vegetables because that's what you're eating. Even though you're eating healthy, I'm still eating a lot of pasta. I'm still eating a lot of fatty, muffins, vegan cookies. Why the fuck not? So you can replace it, but your digestion, because I'm not eating so much meat, my digestion, Jay, so different. So not for everybody. And I buy meat. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, no meat. I'm a vegetarian. I'll eat cheese. I have cats. I have 4 cats. I'm obsessed with my fucking cats. That's another weird thing. I'm a weird guy.
Seriously?
I'm a cat mom. I'm Primetime 99, the cat mom. I'm the king of cats. It's a random. I got 2 of them during the coronavirus. Were displaced. Jay, I'm an interesting cat, okay? But we're not talking about me. Now you're interviewing me. I want to interview you.
I started trying to talk about that black chick poisoning me with I think that what had happened was I was in a Ruth's Chris, right? And then I was the only white dude up in there. And I think that was like, man, let's get that white dude. And so I think they went in the back and I can't digest margarine. And they had gave me margarine. And so I was just damn farted all night, dude.
Okay,
that black chick did it on purpose. She was like, let's make that white boy fart all night. And it worked.
Well, speaking of farting, if you have any sugar-free candy that makes you fart, Sean Waltman talked about that. He posted a tweet about that, just speaking of the diet stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about this because we're already trying to be funny. We're already being funny. I love it. How the fuck do you know Sam Hyde? How do you get Sam Hyde on InfoWars? That's like he doesn't ever do interviews. I mean, how do you get him to what do you tell him that motivates him to even be interviewed? I just can't believe that he would... He must trust you a lot, obviously.
He's a hentai collector, so you basically have to find really rare hentai and send it to him. And if it's anything tentacle based, he'll do it. I found his weakness, so that's what you do. You just send him tentacle stuff. No, I don't know. I just asked him. I was like, "Do you want to come on?" We'd been DMing for a long time, and I said, "Do you want to?" We talked about doing some stuff, and hopefully, I'd like to still do some stuff. Sketch wise, but right when we were talking about doing that, all the COVID crap hit, and that made that pretty difficult. And then I was like, well, do you want to just come on Alex Jones? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I don't know. Hopefully we can still do some other stuff that we bounced around some sketches to do, but
I have one already. You do Face Off and you're both Nick Cage. They mess up, and for some reason you're both Nicolas Cage because you guys both look like Nick Cage, right? Have you seen the sketch where he kind of looks like Nick Cage?
Which one?
The one where he throws the glass. I think he did it on purpose. The girl's face goes through the glass table.
Okay.
Look at that. He looks kind of like Nick Cage. Not as much as you, but kind of like Nick.
Well, I noticed looking on the screen here, I kind of have a Cage-ish appearance. When I eat straight meat and then lose weight. I kind of have a slimmed face, and then there's a little bit of Cage in there. But actually, my younger brother has more of a Nicolas Cage face than I do. So I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm thinking about the impersonations, Jay, is what I'm thinking about, because you do impersonate him very well.
Yeah, but I'm not doing anything on your show without money. You got to pay me for all that shit, dude.
Oh no, I'm not asking you to do any. No, don't dance, monkey. Don't dance. I'm not asking you to dance. I'm really worried about your diarrhea though from the Roost Chris. I hope it wasn't on purpose. That would be bad.
It was them black spies, dude. It was them BLM black spies trying to
okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to do is I want to break this show, make it a huge success. Then I can afford to live in the same neighborhood as Black Lives Matter. Like right now, my neighborhood's not that good. But if y'all can donate conspiracycastle.live with enough donations from you guys, I will be able to live in the same neighborhood as Black Lives Matter. I can't afford to live in Rancho Cucamonga or wherever they bought it, where Rancho Santa Fe. Where did she buy that house, Patrice Cullors? She bought it in
Topanga Canyon.
Topanga Canyon. Okay, speaking of Canyon, let's start with that. Let's get not little serious. I don't want to be serious at all. Let's talk about Laurel Canyon. Is that a psyop? Obviously we know they had that military hideout base, and now we know what's his name's there. Jared Leto lives there, so that's a huge psyop or whatever. So tell me this: when you think about that, center, the epicenter, what do we look at? What's Jim Morrison's dad was the captain of the Gulf of Tonkin, fake U-boat bullshit. Right. So I'm saying there's too many weird connections. Explain, what do you think was really going on in Hollywood in that time? Because this is what I want you to connect it to Aldous Huxley in 1932. How did that connection, how did they predict? What I'm trying to say is, did they predict it in the 30s, all this shit that's going to happen now, like Brave New World? Or did it kind of evolve? Did the globalist agenda kind of evolve into the 60s, and is it still evolving? Does that make sense, that question?
No, it was pretty well planned out even before the 30s. There's a 1910, 1914 essay by Lord Birkenhead of the Royal Society, who it's a famous Cosmopolitan magazine essay that my buddy Tristan dug up. You can look it up, and in that, and that's 20 or 30 years before Aldous. He says that there will be basically test tube babies, and there will be screens everywhere, and you'll be controlled by kind of a centralized technocratic government, et cetera, et cetera. That was decades before Huxley. So I think actually Huxley was kind of a exterior, outer portico guy to promote stuff. And then the way that it kind of makes its way up to Laurel Canyon is that the countercultural establishment, which they always have been establishment, by the way, the so-called counterculture. In the 50s, the premieres and 60s premier film studio was actually owned by the Air Force, and it had multiple A-listers, directors, producers who had continual access to the studios. Disney, Jimmy Stewart, Johnny Stewart, Howard Hawks, Walt, Marilyn Monroe. Basically all of the top of Hollywood would go and do projects there. They would film propaganda reels. You can go on YouTube right now and look up Jimmy Stewart, Laurel Canyon, declassified video, and you can see the old videos that he would shoot there for just kind of Air Force propaganda. But this is the studio that actually put together the atomic bomb footage. So when I was writing my book, my first one back in 2016-17, I actually had just come across Dave's work and material at that time. And so I actually had to go and rewrite the first few chapters to include the kind of stunning stuff that Dave had dug up. Because, it's a never ending rabbit hole. You can always learn more about this topic. This was kind of what I focused on in my grad work. And I didn't even, scratch the surface going into the, deep state connections to Hollywood and whatnot. But yeah, so Laurel Canyon, I think, is one of the great examples, as well as the Bond films. But the Bond films are another example of the deep connection between intelligence agencies and Hollywood. And
we're going to get into Ian Fleming. I got questions about Ian Fleming. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. I just want to talk all about Ian Fleming. Sorry.
Yeah. So, that's the thing is that Laurel Canyon is just another one of these great examples where you have a kind of a burgeoning, test tube of so-called counterculture. But it just happens to be, all of these really well established elite families. Their kids are there. Admiral Morrison's kid, Jim Morrison, right? He was involved in the Gulf of Tonkin. You look at old pictures of Jim Morrison, he's totally clean cut, totally just like a dorky normie type of dude, right? And then basically all the people in that scene that got popular, right, were well connected. There wasn't anybody that kind of organically just kind of came from nowhere. There might have been some early bands that didn't make it, that didn't get very popular, that came from nowhere. But
well, hey Jay, let me cut you off. There's a little trick you can do now. They say go on Wikipedia, even now, look up a celebrity and see if their dad's or mom's name is Blue. Like if their dad's or mom's name is a celebrity, and it's like even now today, the majority of celebrities, if you go on Wikipedia and look at their page, they will have a parent. One of the parents will have a notable page. Sorry, I just want to cut you off because I know
no,
it's
that
important.
makes sense. I mean, Hollywood royalty. But the thing about this is that it's not just like famous parents. It's people that have like a Skull and Bones connection, like Laura Dern's family, high level government, right? She's got relatives that were in FDR. I mean, the Roosevelts were her dad's godparents. She's got relatives that were Skull and Bones. I mean, it's just pretty astounding, the high level government connections. And I think that's the really kind of surprising part, is that for being so-called countercultural, why is it so many people like Frank Zappa and his family, like his dad worked at the Edgewood Arsenal doing biochemical warfare. I mean, it gets really crazy with Zappa and the work that his dad did in terms of creating some of the more heinous kind of hallucinogenic drugs. I'm trying to think of the name of that drug. He came up with
well,
some really
speaking of that, but Jay,
Yeah.
didn't all the psychedelics come from Nazis and from Operation Paperclip when we brought them over, supposedly when they developed the OSS, supposedly they were the ones dropping acid and I mean, I don't know if that's true, but have you heard that they were the designers of it, and that they kind of took that plan to tune in, drop out, basically like what they're using fentanyl today to poison us, they were going to use it to poison us LSD because it was potent.
I mean, drug warfare is old as a type of psychological warfare, or it's a form of warfare, really. I mean, it's chemical warfare, because you're if you ship opium to China, you can addict the population, and it's kind of degrades the population. And we're seeing that now, like kind of in a reverse effect, because China is involved in some of that in the US with fentanyl. So that's a type of warfare. Just like economics can be a type of warfare, where you economically attack a country through banking, through loans, through debt. The IMF does this, World Bank does this. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of the things I'm trying to highlight with kind of what Dave did for the music scene, I was kind of doing for Hollywood, and looking at the way that Hollywood degrades the society through toxic culture. And the point being is just it's a lot more designed and organized than people think, and there's a lot more connection to kind of these shadowy groups, and that they have a lot of say-so, right, in what movies get made and who plays what role. And even movies themselves actually show this. There's a lot of movies that actually demonstrate this, like Wag the Dog. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's a conspiracy classic.
Well, you know what I watched because of you, Inland Empire, dude. That movie was sick, dude. That movie was, I mean, Jay blew me away. I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? And I've seen a lot of weird stuff, but that movie really, and that was because of your recommendation. And I even was talking about that. I did a stream about that. Is, basically, I think with that, I mean, if people have to see that movie, but I'd like to get your takeaway from it. What is it you can learn from other people's mistakes? Because you see the timeline of I mean, what do you think is the takeaway from a movie like that? I mean,
this is a hard one, and it's not one that I've actually done a detailed breakdown of, because it's so difficult. But it is one of the better examples. If you follow it, makes sense of it. I've seen many times, obviously, but it's kind of David Lynch's last take on Hollywood. It's in the train of Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, and it's about, I think, the metaphysics of a Hollywood collapse, or a Hollywood system, right? I mean, the Laura Dern character is basically flashing back to either an earlier version of her own life, and kind of like a reincarnation mindset. I mean, Lynch is into Tibetan Buddhism, so that would make sense if it's like reincarnation. But she sees these like Polish prostitutes that are being trafficked, and I think we're supposed to think that there's an analogy between the trafficking that goes on with, like prostitutes and that kind of stuff maybe 100 years ago, and the way that Hollywood traffics, right, in these kinds of people and people's souls, right, and people's fame and fortune and future. basically have to sign yourself over in a kind of devil's deal pact type of thing. And I think that's what David Lynch is talking about, is the descent of madness that occurs. I mean, that's what Lost Highway is about. That's what Mulholland Drive is about. And that's what Inland Empire is about. But Inland Empire takes it to another level. It's like a bad trip on acid. Like,
Yeah,
I know that, like a bad, like the meta level, like a nightmare bad trip taking acid.
Dude, everybody needs to go watch Inland Empire. So we were talking about David Lynch and how creative he is, but so
and he brings in the demonic, by the way. I forgot to say, brings in the demonic. And the Julia Ormond character, she mentions mind controls. She mentions them spraying the skies and this kind of stuff with chemicals and poison. So, yeah, serious stuff.
Okay. No, it really is hardcore. But let's get into Ian Fleming, because that is, for me, Jay. That was another thing, man. I mean, like, I'm not here to kiss your ass. People are like, I'm a fanboy. Dude, I listened to all that James Bond stuff because when I was a kid, I got for Christmas the box set of James Bond, Moonraker, all the movies. Yep. So I used to watch them when I was a little kid. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know, And now looking back, I mean, just all those movies I watch, and the symbolism and symbology and all the hidden propaganda is unbelievable. And you breaking that down is like me watching it again. So why is Ian Fleming so powerful, and how did he have all this knowledge and all this? Like, how the hell, we can say Huxley, all these social engineers, how do they have this knowledge? But how did Ian Fleming have all that knowledge, in your opinion? What's your estimate?
Well, he was a naval psyops guy, so he was in charge of psychological operations for the Navy, British intelligence for a while. And so he did a lot of operations, and a lot of what he's putting into the stories is stuff that he saw. It's also combining the lives of other characters and other people. So it's not just him, it's other people that he knew, other stories he had heard. And then even infamous characters like villains like Le Chiffre or Blofeld are actually based on Aleister Crowley. So that's because there's a story about another MI6 operative named Dennis Wheatley, who actually wrote a bunch of esoteric novels. He did the Devil Rides Out. If you've ever read that or watched that movie with Christopher Lee, that's actually worth watching, because the Mokatha character in that, the villain, he's also based on Crowley. Very Crowleyan villain. And then
I love Aleister Crowley. I would love reading about, not like him, but my favorite story about Aleister Crowley is that one of his gimmicks, what do you think about this, is he would walk behind somebody in New York City, and this is why somebody thought he was occultic. Obviously, I don't believe this at all, but this is what they thought. This is what he would do. And he would mimic the walk of somebody, and then all of a sudden he would fall, and then supposedly the person in front of him would fall too, and people would be like, oh my God, Aleister Crowley. And so that was one of his tricks, and I just think that trick, every time I heard that story, I was like, they did all kinds of tricks. So when you bring up Aleister Crowley, my antenna goes up, because he's such a, huge guy in the occult. I mean, he is the occult, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's the preeminent Satanist, I guess, of the 20th century. But more interesting than all of that kind of Hollywood flashy stuff, stagecraft, was that he was recruited as an asset for British intelligence. And so the character Dennis Wheatley was involved with a guy named Maxwell Knight in recruiting Crowley to make this astrological prediction that would get Rudolf Hess to fly to Scotland. So the famous evening flight where Rudolf Hess is arrested, that was partially engineered by British intelligence and Dennis Wheatley and the circles of Ian Fleming. So Ian Fleming didn't actually meet Crowley, but he was kind of involved in this asset usage of Crowley that they cooked up, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so he had heard all these crazy stories about Crowley's infamy, and he put that into a lot of the Bond villains, which a lot of people don't know. But it all kind of
I'm into Aleister Crowley too. His connection with L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology. That was the first thing that kind of woke me up to, like, what? There's clandestine groups that meet in the dark. But see, Scientology, Jay, they try to put off the image that it's secret and you're not allowed. That's the image they want to put off. I didn't realize that. And so that opened my eyes that, like, oh, wow, there's secret organizations that don't want to put off the image that they're a secret organization. They actually, hide. So Scientology, for me, learning about L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons and all these Walt Disney, all these guys in the 60s, Aleister Crowley. I mean, I read a book, or I didn't read a book. I read an excerpt from a book. It was his book. This is what they excerpt from one of his books. They said Aleister Crowley would go to a party and he would find the person with the nastiest breath and have them spit in his mouth as like a parlor trick. Yes. So, and he would do this at parties with L. Ron Hubbard, and L. Ron Hubbard talked about this because, like, L. Ron, I mean, these are the connection between the sex parties that they were supposed to be doing in Hollywood. That if you look into the Scientology, and I believe they even talk about it in Going Clear, is that women actually came there to get impregnated because they thought they were getting impregnated with the seed of Satan, and they were on all these drugs and stuff. So the connection with L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology. Do you ever go into Scientology? I don't know if I've heard you dissect Scientology. I guess you have, haven't you, Jay? A bunch.
We have in the past. Yeah, I've done some older, did an interview that was pretty popular about 4 or 5 years ago where we did a deep dive into 5 different cults, and we did cover Scientology as one of those cults. And then I've done a lot of essays where I cover the way that Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard connected to Hollywood. So in my books, there's a couple of places where I go into that, but a lot of people don't know that there is a connection to Eyes Wide Shut and Scientology with the Sea Org and the naval guy in the movie. And then, of course, the Jack Parsons character, right? Parsons and Hubbard had, this kind of rivalry over the women that they went back and forth with. But so Parsons and the origin of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, I mean, that all connects to Hollywood and to Hubbard. And then obviously with Tom Cruise and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people don't know that just recently some research that was kind of speculative and stuff that I said for a long time, did some interviews 4 or 5 years ago talking about the CIA connections to Charles Manson, and the recent deep dives that I've done into the serial killer stuff. It's now been confirmed. I finally got into the new book that's just come out by Tom O'Neill about chaos in the 1960s. It confirms the CIA and Scientology connections to Manson. So that had been speculated for a long time. And he dug up some solid evidence of that, including the fact that when Charles Manson was in prison, he went theta clear. So I think there's a definite...
I have to cut you off. One thing, the theta clear in Scientology, Harmon, a guy who's a call-in show patron, he calls in the show all the time. He was in California, was a prison guard in Manson's prison for 3 years. So you can't talk about Manson without bringing up Harmon. He's a very loyal fan. So you're telling me he got the theta clear, Jay? Charles Manson?
Yeah, when he was in prison. So and then a lot of people don't know this. And the reason that's relevant is that, right, if there's CIA connections to Scientology, which obviously there is, my buddy Mark Packard has done some insight or some research into like why Russia has banned certain cults like Scientology or Jehovah's Witnesses, because they're fronts for intelligence work. So multiple cults have been banned from other countries, right? Like that, precisely for those reasons. I just posted that up on my rock fan if anybody wants to watch that old or listen to that old podcast that he did about Scientology. But that's another source where we get into the intelligence connections to that stuff that's more recent. But yeah, I mean, this is a really deep rabbit hole. It goes really, really deep.
And I mean,
but see that could again suggest like Manson being used by other people, right? So, and Dave talked about this too, right? Dave hit on the fact that there's clearly something more going on with Manson that suggests organized crime, perhaps ritual. Well, obviously the ritual stuff, but contract killing. And so that's another element that's turning up in a lot of the stories of the serial killers, is that they're probably being used for more than just serial killing. They're actually contract killers, and they're connected to organized crime. And that's another thesis of Dave's, right? From In Program to Kill, Dave was kind of pioneering this thesis that the serial killers aren't just what we're told in the mainstream media.
Do you think they're MK Ultra? Like, what do you think's going on now when we look at everything?
In fact, yeah, and some of them, like in the case of Gary Heidnik, we know that Gary Heidnik was involved. He's a famous serial killer who started his own cult. He was in MK Ultra. There's some good circumstantial evidence that suggests that Dahmer was perhaps in MK Ultra. He was actually stationed about 20 minutes away from where Gary Heidnik was stationed in Germany.
I got to say the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, that is so fucked up. Excuse me, I'm trying not to cuss less on my show, but if you look at Tony and John Podesta's art, and you look at the Podesta brothers, they are famous for having the actual dead body with the head cut off and the curl. So they have that hanging up in their foyer of their nice stairwell. So in their biggest place where they can present it, they have art of Jeffrey Dahmer. So for me, when you say there's a connection, Dahmer had to be some sort of CIA, government created agent to murder. I mean, why would these evil elitists, and I don't like the word elitist, you know what I mean? Why would these freaks like that if they didn't think he had some cool cachet about him?
Well, a lot of people don't know about the Phoenix program, which was an actual program to use and profile these kinds of psychopathic individuals and actually turn them into serial killers in Vietnam. This is a real admitted known CIA program. Everybody can go look it up. It was dreamt up, I think, by Colby. And the idea was, let's take people that have these proclivities towards cannibalism and whatnot, and let's just sort of let them loose in Vietnam and see what happens as they terrorize the Viet Cong. And then, what do you know? These people come back from Vietnam, right? Everybody knows the kind of like, picturesque idea of the crazy vet, right? Oh, he's a Vietnam vet. Don't make a loud noise. He'll go crazy, right?
Lieutenant Dan,
like Apocalypse Now type stuff, right? So, I mean, if you watch Apocalypse Now, that's actually kind of hinting at what I'm talking about, right? I mean, the Colonel Kurt's character goes nuts and he runs off in the, into the jungle to become his own, cult leader, God figure. He's worshipped by the cult. It's all right there in Apocalypse Now. I didn't even know about, right? I mean, I always liked that movie growing up as a movie buff. I had no idea that there was an actual program that the CIA had to create these kinds of guys. So point being, although I can't confirm that Dahmer was in the Phoenix program, it's very likely that if we know they had these programs, and I've just covered the fact that Dr. Thomas Nehru, the naval psychologist back in the late 70s, early 80s, early 90s. It's a New York Times article where he talks about profiling to find psychopathic individuals to put into these programs. And so, yes, they have assassination programs. And the point is that they wanted to see if they could tweak these people to kind of be weapons. And then what happens when they come back, shocker, right? You get the phenomenon in the 80s, 70s, and 80s of the serial killer. And it's kind of dies away right after the 90s, after the last one that I can think of would be Israel Keys or BTK. And both of those guys had military service. So it's not an accident that like 24 serial killers have had a time of, significant military service, many of them even stationed in the same areas. But yeah, you get the point.
No, I get the point. And my favorite, though, Dave McGowan, is Wagging the Moon Doggy, the moon landings. I'm anti-NASA.
It's a funny book. That book's actually pretty funny when you read it. I expected like a really like nerdy book, but it's actually really hilarious when you read it.
It really is. And the best part about it is the glove. It's like these guys, I think it was the Apollo 7 or what, I forget which Apollo was, but one of the astronauts couldn't hit the golf club that they snuck on space because his hand was too hurt because the mechanism in the glove didn't fit his hand. So you're telling me they got a suit that can go from negative 250 degrees to positive 250 degrees that's airtight that we can't even test here on Earth, but they can't even get the hand mechanism on it to work? Give me a break. That Dave McGowan pointed that out, and I just was like, okay, this guy's a genius, and that's why I like him. But one thing I just want to talk about, though, is like the secret assassin. They're still doing that, Jay. They're still doing secret super soldiers, don't you think? And were those programs, those secret super soldier programs, don't you think they're doing them on Joe Blows? You know what I mean? They're doing them on not soldiers this day and age. Do you think that's still going on? Is my question.
I would imagine. I mean, I don't have definitive evidence of that happening right now, except that, I mean, what we're seeing right now with everybody and that's a version of that, because I mean, what happens to MK Ultra when it gets shut down is that it just turns into MK Search and MK Delta, and they move it to Fort Detrick, and it becomes a chemical warfare program where they start testing like microchips and this kind of stuff. So when you see that recent, what was the CBS report about the nano gel for COOF, right? I'm sure you saw that went around everywhere last week.
I didn't, with the nano gel, I didn't see it. Say that again.
So they were set, right? So this was like a conspiracy, right? There's no such thing as a thing that's gonna, go into your bloodstream, and there's no nano.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't realize.
Now it's in the major news last week, right? And so my point is that that's the kind of stuff that DARPA started doing. That is the continuation of MK Ultra. Just read. Well, Jay, read John Marks's book. The last chapter talks about that.
Well, and Jay, let me bring up, I didn't want to bring up Alex Jones too much, but dude, you host the 4th Hour of InfoWars. That is so badass. Alex Jones is a personal hero of mine, and everybody in the conspiracy world looks up to Alex Jones. Dude, he was right about everything. I mean, what the hell? I mean, all these guys, he was right literally about all the crap that he was going to say. You know, no digital currency. I mean, Patriot Act 2.0 is right around the corner. I mean, mandatory, you know what? I mean, literally everything he predicted. And the frogs are turning gay. They are turning asexual. That's what pisses me off the most, Jay, is I'm a comedian. I like to joke. You like to joke. But the thing is, they all say the frogs are turning gay. They really are. They're becoming asexual, and they're not. Their sex organs. I'm just saying that's what's so. The nomenclature of society is so stupid. Is that they're telling a fact that's actually real, and they think it's fake. They're like, they're turning the frogs gay when the frogs are actually becoming gay. I'm not trying to harp on that too much, but that just shows you. This is my thing. This is what I always say, Jay. It's just society. A&W Hamburgers, when they got in business, they wanted to compete with McDonald's. So they did a nationwide market survey study. What they did was they wanted to compete with the quarter pounder burger. So what they did is they created a third pounder burger. The third pounder burger obviously is bigger. A third of a pound is bigger than a quarter pound, right? So they did is in this market survey, they asked customers which burger they thought was bigger. And in the menu, they have 1/3 or 1/4. Overwhelmingly, Jay, everybody picked 1/4 because 4 is bigger than a 3. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with retarded people, and we're dealing with people that are basically autistic. And it goes into Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. I was just thinking about that. It's like in that world, what was it? You only get to your maturity of a 10-year-old. Is that how it works in Brave New World?
Well, yeah, they have like different classes. So there's the alphas, the betas, the gammas, deltas, and then like the slug, basically janitor class, like the omegas, like the 80 IQ slob class. So yeah, everything is rigid. And so I think the alphas have a little bit more, they're more like teenagers, but they're kind of like wild teenagers that can do what they want.
Frat bros, basically.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. But yeah, that one's a really weird dystopia, right? Because you can't say no to humping anyone. If someone comes up and says, you have to hump me, you have to do it. And if you say no, like you get jailed, right? So it's like, you have to hump everyone at all times. It's pretty crazy. But that's pretty much, I think, where we're going. We were laughing at this, about that at dinner tonight, where it's like, and imagine anybody's just going to come up to you and be like, you know, I'm going to report you if you don't hump me or let me hump you right now. I mean, that's where we're going. But that's an overlooked, forgotten element in Brave New World, is that you have to have, you know, sex with whoever at any time. You can't say no because it's bigotry, right? It's discrimination if you say no. How dare you not accept, you know, putting your pee in your poop in the poop, right? Or wherever else. So Brave New World is the model, and I don't think he was like trying to free us or like warn us. I think if you watch his Berkeley speeches, he's pretty much like in on it. He's getting off on the fact that they're going to bring in this technocratic society. But there's a lot in both 1984 and Brave New World. If you watch both of those or read both of those, like I mean, it really does tell you everything.
Well, I want to get into 1984 a little bit, but I want to say with Brave New World, one of the things that's happening now is when they had the theaters there was like about Century. You know, what was it called? They're like Love Flicks or something. So it's basically softcore porn. That's literally what's it's
like breasts and butts and explosions. It's like something from Idiocracy.
And that's what it is. We're literally in idiocracy, Jay. I mean, you cannot deny that. So is there a hope to get this train to the New World Order, whatever you want to call it? I mean, haven't they already won, Jay? And I'm not trying to be nihilist. I'm not a nihilist. I think we can actually control our own universe, and, you know, we can not be affected by these evil people because if we choose not to play their game. But there's a lot of people that aren't smart enough, Jay, to not realizing they're going to be tricked by the magician. Can we save those people? Can we save these idiots, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I think there's always hope for greater and greater numbers of people being awakened. As things get worse, there will be more and more people who do wake up. And I mean, I've been amazed that I was black pilled probably 10 years ago, and then I keep being amazed at how many people do wake up. So I don't know if that's enough to save the West or to save our country, but I mean, I think that there's a life beyond this life, so I'm not totally just worried about this life. But I guess I would say there's different types of hope. So do I have hope for America? Not a whole lot, but I have hope for, you know, other things, for perhaps maybe even a better future.
Yeah, and I want to do that. I want to pull up Melissa's picture. You know, we got to talk about your faith orthodox. Let me do a screen share. So Melissa DeCourcy is an awesome She's a trainer, a yoga star. She's a really nice lady. And so this is her, Melissa. I want to give her a shout out. She's a big fan of yours. She's got your book even at her thing, Jay. Look at your ass. She's a real fan. So I know Melissa will enjoy that. So that is, wanted to say, hey, so talk about your faith, Jay. I see you always debating these people. And let me tell you something. I actually, my last name's Stein, but my dad never knew his dad, and his dad was Jewish. I wasn't raised Jewish. My dad's not religious at all. So when I was 17, I actually choose to get baptized. But so I'm a baby Christian. I'm a fake Christian. I'm probably going to burn in hell. But I'm saying I vibe with Christianity. I think it's a cool thing. I'm okay with that, Jay. But this is my problem. This is the only thing, is I love your faith and your passion. But when I look at the Catholic Church, come on, let's call a spade a spade. And there's worse churches. I'm not saying the Catholic Church is the worst church.
I'm not Catholic, but I agree.
I know you're not, but you were, and I could never talk to you about anything about theology. I'm not, you know a million times more than me. I'm just saying the coming from that church, not saying you're a part of that. I look at all religion, even Islam and stuff, is kind of perverted and being used for manipulation. So like, I also don't really believe in an eternal hell, Jay. I know that sounds crazy, but that's kind of my viewpoint. Is I think that every connection with God is super. And this is going to say New Age. You're going to call me a fag or something, but I'm just saying. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. I think our connection with God is individualistic because I know, Jay, that I've not talked to God, but I felt God's presence. When I prayed or during tough times, and maybe it wasn't the physical God, but it was my connection to a different realm or dimension. And I feel like that's the case for everybody. If you're looking for something, you can find it. Anybody can. I know that sounds a little general, but there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, right? And I think there's a lot of different ways to connect to God is what I'm trying to say. So inherently, religion can be messed up by man, but if there is one, I think Christianity is probably the best one. Is my thing.
Well, I would say on your point about the papacy and the Roman Catholic Church, definitely agree there. I did spend a good amount of years there in that church and saw a lot of problems and saw a lot of things that I couldn't reconcile, just outright contradictions in terms of the doctrine. And so that sent me kind of just on a journey to investigate, see where I thought authentic Christianity was. And to me, I came down to like, well, it's going to be the Christianity of the first 1,000 years of the church, since that's the same between the East and the West. So I wasn't really interested in Protestantism. I was raised Protestant. I kind of knew what that was all about. And then I got into looking into Orthodoxy many, many years ago, but it took a long time before I kind of settled into that. But my approach was also not just like, existential and what do I feel here or there. Not that there's something wrong with that, but I also tried to combine it with the philosophy angle, because when I went to college, I studied a lot of philosophy. And so I wanted like rational, like hard philosophic arguments, right? I don't mean
evidence. You literally look for evidence. Sorry, but you literally
no. Even more than evidence. Even more than evidence, like a straight up like logical proof. Like I want the proof from logic. And so the closest thing to that ended up for me being what's called the transcendental argument for God's existence. So I'm a big proponent of the transcendental argument. I think that's the strongest argument. And then, I think Orthodox Christianity is the real Christianity. I think Roman Catholicism is a very dangerous system that has a lot of sincere people. I'm not trying to offend Catholics. I have a lot of friends that are Catholics. I love those people, but I don't think that the papacy and the Pope and that whole thing is good for people. So there's an important angle to this that a lot of people don't know about, which is like the whole history of the Vatican and how that ties into intelligence stuff and how that ties into the pedo trafficking stuff, which I've read a whole lot about. It's a part of the reason I left all that stuff, is how crazy that world is. But yes, that's all very real.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, and I didn't make this point, is they try to lie to us and tell us that we evolved from pond scum from a very early age. And so what I realized is there was a time when I would consider myself, I was never really an atheist because I always kind of spoke to God or I prayed, even like maybe I prayed in foxholes, that still I was maybe whatever, when I was in a bad spot, I've never Not found God, but what I'm trying to say is, Jay, when I realized God was so real, when they realized how hard they're trying to hide him, that's what I realized, is that they want us to literally make you and I think that we evolved from pond scum. And you look at Darwin and the idea of evolution being the biggest joke in the world. It's a lie, and I think that lie is one of the fundamental reasons why society doesn't have any significance, because they make you think that you're some accidental, stardust bullcrap.
Well, speaking of Brave New World, have you heard me talk about the fact that there's a section in Brave New World where the characters discover that there's actually scientific evidence and proof for metaphysical things and for design in the universe and this kind of stuff? And the world socialist controller, Mustafa Aman's like, yeah, of course there is, but we suppress all that. We hide all that. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, we don't want people knowing that, because that would disturb the fact that we're in control. That's literally in the book.
But I'm saying, Jay, they're hiding the existence of God. That's why I look at you as.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That Mustafa Aman says that in the book. He's like, yes, we have to hide that, because if there's a God, then we're not in control. The guys say, the controller guy.
Well, but we have free will, so they'd say, how even there's a God, he gave us free will, so couldn't we still be in control if there's a God? I'm just trying to be contrarian with that. No,
I'm saying that the world social controller in the book.
I understand that.
Okay, yeah, he's saying that we hide the evidence and all that, right? That points to God. Even in science, he says we have to hide that, because science has to be a domain of atheism. And it can't point to anything like that, because if it did, it would shake people's confidence in us, the world socialist controllers that give the appearance of being like masters of science or whatever. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Out of our control. But do you think, like, what do you think about free will? I mean, God gives us free will, right? I mean, so some things are in our control, Jay, or is everything absolutely controlled by God, in your opinion? Like, is everything predetermined?
No, I believe we have free will, sure.
But I'm saying, do you come? I don't know enough about your faith, but do you think everything's already predetermined by God, what's going to happen, or do you think that, it could, we are in control of it at all? I'm just curious.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, I mean, I think that God is all-knowing, but I also think that it's possible, if God's all-powerful, that he can create a world where there are free beings. So I think that this is just typically what's called compatibilism. I think that God's sovereignty is compatible with human freedom. I don't think that we know exactly all the mechanics of that, but I think that it's compatible.
Okay, and so now since we're talking about God, we have to talk about. I've been watching your videos. I've been laughing to death. You've been going after Owen Benjamin, and there's Owen Benjamin fans, I'm sure, in the chat. They're gonna get mad at me. And I was an Owen Benjamin fan a little bit before he was famous. I was definitely his fan, and I was a fan of him after. But then he told people not to follow me on Instagram because I posted about mandatory vaccines at the beginning of something. So I haven't even met the guy. I haven't even said 5 words. He told people not to follow me. So obviously he's not my friend. And I know there's fans of him in the chat. But I just want to say, when you go after him, why is it the triad? Why is that such a big deal? Is it because he's blasphemizing the Trinity? What is the? I'm just kind of want to know what the beef is there. I'm really interested, to be honest.
Well, I wasn't targeting him or going after him.
That guy, you just shared that video. That's right. You haven't gone after him. I just want to make that clear. Yeah, you haven't gone after him. I mean,
he's called me like everything in the book for the last year. I've never talked to the guy. Didn't say anything bad about him. I mean, it's a nonstop.
I don't watch him. Wait, shut up.
I don't either.
He's been going after you. I didn't realize that. I thought
over a year. I don't know what his issue is, but so right. I mean, if you're an Orthodox Christian, you have kind of things that you hold to, and one of those would be the Trinity. Another thing would be the deity of Christ. These are kind of the basics of our faith. So for me, we believe that is Christianity, right? Authentic Christianity is Orthodox Christianity. So it's not that I have some vendetta against him. Again, I don't follow his content. I don't follow what he talks about. I'm aware of him. And every now and then people send me things that he says, but I don't regularly follow his stuff. My point was just that my only problem with him or what he talks about is that he says these, what we would consider blasphemous and heterodox things. That's it. So most of the time, though, when I did a video after he was kind of saying a lot of that stuff that people thought, oh, you're replying to him. No, actually, I'm about to debate a really famous Muslim. So the video is preempting the sheik that I'm going to be debating. That's what I meant. It didn't have to do with Owen Benjamin, but it does happen to overlap because Owen Benjamin kind of makes Muslim types of arguments. But actually, my main interest isn't Owen Benjamin, but rather the many, and we've actually converted a pretty large number of Muslims in my Discord. So
Yeah, I know
that's
your
what that's
Discord's been really successful. You've been crushing in there. Okay, speaking of God, I think it was you telling me, was it no. I think it was something else. Was telling me about that was about the fall of Rome. It was something else. But tell me about we can drop Owen Benjamin, but let's go into we were talking about religion. This is my question is what are some of the worst popes we've ever had, Jay? Because you know all about these popes. Your knowledge of the stuff you've read, the books you've read. I read it at sixth grade level, so I'm very jealous of your reading skills. And the books you read are insane. But explain to us who are some of the worst.
as long as you don't go read with the sixth graders, then we would be a little.
I'm not allowed near. I'm not allowed near any school. So that.
The restraining order is already in place.
That's already in place. No, but explain to me though. But tell me some of the. I just want to get into a little bit of the. Tell me some of the weirdest popes. I think you mentioned one weird pope, and I thought to myself, ask Jay about weird popes. Because you were talking about, wasn't there like some evil popes or something? What was it? You were saying something, and now I can't remember about it. And I'm so mad that I can't remember. I wrote down popes. I got my list of topics to talk to you about, and popes is one. And I'm like, why did I write down popes? I can't remember. You were saying something about popes, and it had me laughing.
Well, there have been a lot of scandalous popes, and I don't mean to pick on Roman Catholics, of course, because there's a lot of scandalous people in any church. But I think the reason that it's a little easier to pick out scandals in the Roman Catholic world is because the whole church is built on one dude. Right? The Pope is the successor and vicar of Christ, right? He is Peter in person, supposedly. And so, there have been a lot of good popes, at least in the first 1,000 years of the church. And then when we get to the second millennium, things get really weird. There was a period when there was 3 different popes in what's called the Great Western Schism, where you have basically a French palace and 3 different dudes claiming to be the successor to Peter in France in a giant French palace. That's pretty weird. And then they did a lot of nepotism where they put their relatives in, and you get by the time you get to the Medicis and the Renaissance papacy, you get like Alexander the Fourth or Sixth. He's the really notorious one that had like giant brothels and slept with his relatives, and just out there. That dude was crazy. And then there's supposedly like some of them were into Renaissance magic and this kind of stuff.
Well, wasn't there a 14-year-old pope or something like Phaglalin, or maybe that was a Roman emperor? I'm mixing.
There's a couple stories about this that are. I'm not saying that I don't. There's a couple disputed cases. There's like the story of Pope Joan and then the story of the young pope. I don't actually know how true those things are, but there's no scandals in the papacy, and we don't need that to like show that the papacy is scandalous. But Vatican Bank, right? that gets set up, and that's actually run by the Rothschilds for several centuries, which is, I think, scandalous. And then it becomes a giant. Well, it becomes a thing connected to the CIA and what's called the P. Are you familiar with the P2 Lodge and all that? The Vatican Bank scandal.
No, because I don't even know what's the Vatican I and Vatican II, Jay. I've always wanted to ask you that. Can you give me?
Those are councils. The Vatican I is a council called in the late 1800s to define papal infallibility. So that the council calls it defines this dogma, and then Vatican II happens in the 60s, and that's like the liberalization of the church at the Second Vatican Council. So they're important because they're two, within 60 years or so. Councils, or excuse me, within about 60, 70 years that kind of are the opposites of one another. And then I think when we get to the modern day, we've got some really scandalous papal activities, again with most recently the Vatican Bank, which ties into organized crime. It ties into intelligence agencies and people being blackmailed via the PEDO stuff that everybody's heard about in terms of the Roman Catholic world. And that also ties into money laundering in terms of the Vatican Bank. That's been in the news, again, consistently in the last 10 years, nonstop. And it's connected to the PEDO stuff, which a lot of people don't know. So that's also, you could say, big time Vatican scandals.
Wow. Okay.
By the way, the new pope, for the first time in history recently, had an ecumenical interfaith gathering with Yazidis. And the reason this is relevant is that the Mandeans and the Yazidis worship Satan. They believe Satan.
I saw that.
Yeah. So this is a first for the Pope to actually pray with Satan honoring sects and sectarians groups, cults.
Well, I read that. I read what you posted, and isn't it like the thing is that they presented like they're sun worshippers, not Satan? Is that how they tried to make
No,
it?
they
That's how
worship
they
an
try to-
angel that they think is symbolized by the peacock, and they call him Melech Taus, and he's the fallen angel. So, fallen angel is Satan. So,
Okay. Well, this is my question. So we got, the Vatican. We got, okay. Well, we know, Rome is the religious capital of the world. Washington's the military capital of the world. London is the financial capital of the world. But in my opinion, if you're going to say that the Illuminati or whatever, lack of a better word, skull and bones, this new world order, I'm almost thinking, Jay, that the New World Order obviously is real, but we're being run by multinational corporations that don't have a soul. And so now every corporation has a gay flag. We're gay. Oh my God, Xerox Copy's gay this month. I'm saying they don't have a soul. They're not really connecting. It's artificial. They are artificial companies that only care about a bottom line and a bottom dollar. So they're always going to use us as human cattle in order to grow their businesses. So when the world is run by multinational corporations, how isn't that bigger than the New World Order or than Sumner Redstone by himself or whoever whoever these guys are?
It's bigger than the corporations, because they will actually enact policies that hurt their bottom line. So it's more than the bottom line making money. I mean, it's an actual social engineering agenda, and that's why they're pushing all the same things that Gil Bates and everybody else pushes. So absolutely.
Well, and they don't care about money because YouTube, I mean, Alphabet reported their best year ever, 35% increase in profits. So what do you think is going to happen? I mean, do you think the Patriot Act 2.0, do you think, we're going to have apps on our phone? Like, what do you see in the near future that we can say on the show? You've been very great with how you use the words, but like, don't you think in the near future we're going to police ourselves very soon with our phones? That's my guess, is that we're going to download the Acceler app or whatever this app is, and it's going to be our jail cell. And that's going to be in the very near future, and you're going to have to download it to get your social credit score. So how soon do you see all this on the horizon? Because the digital currencies, I mean, you can't use cash anywhere in Dallas, basically.
Yeah, I mean, really soon. I mean, way sooner than I thought. I mean, the coup definitely helped propel all of that. I mean, I thought we got 10, 20 years before we would start seeing the stuff that the coup has fast forwarded up to now.
It's very stressful. I mean, and you're talking about counterculture, how the counterculture is fake. So, Jay, aren't you the counterculture? Isn't Sam Hyde the counterculture? Because everything you see on Saturday Night Live sucks dick. It's the worst trash in the world. And they got Elon Musk hosting. Give me a fucking break. Elon Musk, he sucks dick too. I'm just saying, nothing's funny. Sam Hyde is actually funny. They gave him a sliver of a show. He should have had a longer show. I'm just saying. And then they even took that away. Like his show was such a small show. I'm not saying it was small. It was a great show. I'm just saying they couldn't even give him that. He couldn't even have that show in pop culture. Like pop culture is so controlled. A guy can't even have a show. Like, isn't that so sick? That's how censored we are. And at YouTube, YouTube censorship. But dude, we are screwed. Nothing's funny. There's no humor. I mean, is there comedy in Brave New World? Is there comedy in 1984?
No, not at all. I mean, to have comedy assumes that there's some functioning type of logic to show the absurdity of things, right? Because I mean, comedy is about the absurd. So if there's the absurd, then there's the non-absurd, right? Which is rational, which is sensible, which is coherent, common sense, makes sense, etc. And so in the upside down world, you can't have that. You can't have truth being told through satire, through mocking absurdity, right? I mean, that's really what I try to do all the time, is just mock the absurdity constantly, because everything is so ridiculous. I mean, it's just so over the top, dumb. Tard world is where we're at. It's not clown world, it's clown tard world. I mean, it's just crazy. And they can't have that, because that would, again, resonate with people, right? I mean, if you make people laugh, it resonates probably better than anything else. So, yeah, I think it's really sad. Obviously, that was a whole bunch of just stupidity and jealousy. Actually, a lot of what happened to get Sam canceled was people being jealous, people that weren't funny. That I've noticed a lot of the social justice stuff is. I mean, I know this is kind of common sense too, but people have figured out they can use this as a weapon to go after people that are better than them, funnier than them, smarter than them, and more successful. and that's that they know they can use it as a weapon. And that's the sad part, is that it works, right? So you can literally be the best comedian, the funniest guy, the smartest guy, which, I mean, I think Sam is that. And then somebody who's not funny, who's just a total social justice slug retard, can get that.
Leslie Jones is hosting the MVMA. She couldn't host a dog show. She couldn't host some of these comedians are so shitty. And Sam Hyde, anybody that doesn't know Sam Hyde, is the literal, I'm not want to kiss his ass too, but the guy's a genius. He predicted that woman cop. It was his stream right before the woman cop, that woman shot her. Did you see how he's talking about how if you're around a woman cop with a gun, you better have a bulletproof vest on because you're going to get shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he predicted that, but comedy's dead, and so that's what my point I was trying to make is I have Conspiracy Castle 33. That's all their symbology. A third of the angels casted out of heaven. And I try to mock it too, Jay. That's why my show is a comedy show, but I talk about serious subjects because there's no other way. If you don't talk about this subject, I get in so many loose traps where I watch these doom and gloom truther videos, and it makes you want to freaking kill yourself after, basically. It makes you literally want to commit suicide. So when I saw you, Jay, I saw a guy that's being funny talking about it. I was like, I'm going to be like that. I saw Sam Hyde, doing funny stuff. I'm going to be like that. I'm going to expose what's going on, and I'm going to do it in a humorous way so people can understand it, because humor is dead, Jay. So that's why I'm such a fan of yours, is you actually, even though you're a scholar and a book nerd, I mean that with all due respect, you're also funny, and you're also relatable, which that's what we need too, because the people that they're putting out there, these celebrities aren't relatable. Nobody's relatable to us, Jay.
No, they're garbage people, dude. And thank you for your kind words. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was really sweet of you.
Oh, look, we're already bromance. I knew it. I knew, Jay, I was going to have you on the show. I'm going to bromance you down. No, but and let's talk for like 10 more minutes. Can we take a couple more calls? Can we take a call or two though here?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna put the call in number, and we'll talk for a couple minutes, get people in line, and we'll just take a couple calls. I know I don't want to hold you all night. I know you're a busy man, Jay, but I got you here, so I'm going to take advantage of it while I got you here. And I'm sure some people are going to ask you some crazy questions. So
crazy shit, dude. I don't doubt. Yeah.
Okay, and let me talk to you about this too, dude. So debates, I love debating, but when I say I love debating, you know what I mean. It's fun. It's annoying. And one of the topics for me is I consider myself a 9/11 expert. I mean, I've done so many hours of 9/11 research. I just feel like I could just talk it up and down. And I go on Modern Day Debate and I do those debates. But tell me, why do you like the debates?
I didn't get into debates or debating until I was in college and took some philosophy classes that dealt with apologetics and debating the existence of God. And I just kind of fell into it. I really, really enjoyed it. Just the strategy, the technique, the rhetoric, the prose, everything that goes into it. I really enjoyed it. And I just kept doing it. We did it. We used to do it. I was on the I guess you could call it the debate team. It was really just a philosophy club, but we called it that. And we would do debates with professors even when we were undergrad. So I had a lot of practice. I continued doing debate nonstop, and it just kind of snowballed into a thing where started getting requests to do debates with kind of, e-celeb internet type figures. And we did Kokesh, we did JF, we did Stephen Molyneux.
You've done a lot of legendary ones.
Yeah, Matt Dillahunty, and then we did Dr. Shabir Ali, the famous Muslim guy. So, and then we got some big ones coming up. So I don't know, it just snowballed. It's not a thing I really ever planned to do. It's just something I kind of fell into just with study. I think if you study philosophy, if you do that in college and grad school, like you kind of get plugged into doing these weird things that most people don't do or aren't into, like debate. Like a lot of people find it really offensive. They're like, I don't know, how dare you just love to debate. No, I don't actually enjoy disagreeing with people. I'm actually a very agreeable person for the most part, unless it's a topic that I actually care about, right? So you're saying the big nine event, I care about, like the philosophical issues, theology, that kind of stuff. Most of the other stuff I don't care about. I don't really debate, standard stuff. Politics, I don't really care about debating politics, but I do, by the way, I put a lot of time into researching the big nine event as well. So I have been in debates with people about that, not publicly, but like relatives, people
I
that,
got public ones. You got to see it. I mean, that's my favorite. And I debate the creation. Obviously that God is the creator. I've debated, but I don't get into the theism of it. I just talk about how the Big Bang is just, dude. Two rocks didn't smash together, and the universe didn't come out of a rock's asshole. I mean, it's just that's not how we got here. And that was created by one of your boys.
What's that? Who? What?
The Jesuit created the Big Bang Theory. Wasn't it a pope or wasn't it a priest that created that? One of your boys?
Bro, I'm not a Catholic, dude.
I know, but okay, is that
Are you talking about the Jesuits were involved in both the rise of Big Bang and the rise of the promotion of Darwinism. Absolutely. Yeah, I've talked about
I sound like an idiot. I just thought Orthodoxy was part of Catholicism, so it's not. So okay, I didn't realize that. I thought that was I apologize.
Bro,
I thought that was like,
dude, like I debate.
I don't know jack shit.
I debate Roman Catholics all the time. It's okay.
But I thought Orthodoxy was like a part of Catholicism. Okay, see, I didn't realize that.
So the Roman Catholic Church, well, it's two different uses of the word Catholic, right? So the Roman Catholic Church is the Western Church that is in communion and follows the teachings of the Pope, right? And sometimes the Orthodox Church is called the Orthodox Catholic Church, but that's a different use of the word because they mean whoever follows the Pope. We mean whatever the ancient church is from the first 1,000 years. So, yeah, two different uses of the word, but we do not believe the papal doctrines of the last 1,000 years.
When Vito Spatafori gave that construction worker a blowjob in The Sopranos, how much did that affect you when you saw that scene? Did it affect you more?
Not at all, because I'm not a Roman Catholic.
I'm just saying, but you know what I'm talking about The Sopranos.
I know they're
oh,
Catholic.
You're saying because they would have been turned on by that? Is that what you're saying?
That was a joke.
That was a joke. Yeah, I know. I kind of missed it on the lead. But tell me about this. So The Sopranos, the best show of all time. I'm a Sopranos junkie, and when you broke that down, I love it. I mean, and when you think of guys, Christopher Moltisanti and Tony Soprano choking him out in the last season, he's killing his Chrissy Moltisanti. I just can't believe. That was such a good series. What do you think about that? Break that down, and what do you think about the they're making, what is it called, the King of
the is like a prequel, Young Tony.
Yeah, and it's David Chase or whatever the guy. It's the same guy. Young Tony. It's his son playing it, and James Gandolfini. I had one interaction with him. I was an extra in that movie with him and Jim Carrey, and I was with them on set all day. Couldn't have been a cooler, more magnanimous, nice guy. And people always say that. So I think James Gandolfini was probably the best actor. I know that might be strong because I know you like about actors, but TV actor, he had to be the best one of our generation, of that generation of like the 90s and early 2000s, don't you think?
Good question. I haven't really thought about it. Yeah, he would definitely be up there. I mean, I can't think of anybody who could have played that character better. I mean, he's just perfect for the role. He executed it perfectly. The show, I didn't watch it at the time. I didn't really care about TV at the time. I didn't think TV sucks. I've always been a kind of movie snob. But that was my mistake because when I did go and watch Sopranos, I was really impressed. Definitely some really deep writing, excellent writing, well executed on all fronts, but a lot deeper than I thought. Like there was a lot of philosophy that comes up in The Sopranos, way more than I expected. We did a whole, I think, a 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 45-minute podcast breaking down all of it, all the seasons. So yeah, I think Tony is the tragic, dark hero. I think it's obviously a tragedy. And I think he is dead at the end. That's the whole point. And there's many indicators, right, leading up.
He revealed it. David Chase in an article actually said the death scene recently when they were talking about the movie. So
exactly.
But the tragic hero, don't we love the tragic hero? I mean, isn't the tragic hero the most interesting, hero? Like, well, do we like the guy that doesn't have to take a couple lumps? I mean, don't we want the zero to hero? Don't we like that, the tragic hero? I mean, the guy that doesn't make it at the end because we kind of want to relate to him too. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to be jealous of the person's success at the same time. It's just weird. We all have low self-esteem, so we kind of want to have a low self-esteem hero is what I'm trying to articulate.
That's a good point. I mean, I I think there's a place for tragedy and comedy and epic, I guess, in the sense of a classical positive portrayal. All of those are useful. I mean, not everything has to be I mean, Sopranos is a tragedy. I mean, it's tragic. I mean, it's kind of like The Godfather, like the whole, and they even referenced, The Godfather in the last sequence in the diner. The whole idea that the American dream will give you the happiness, prestige, the wealth, the thing that you're seeking for the good of the family ends up being the destruction of the family. And I mean, isn't that a great allegory for the temptation of America and Americanism and the American dream?
Exactly. I mean, and wasn't you there's talking about how like La Casa Nostra or how like the mafia's rituals, that was all taken out of Skull and Bones and taken out of the CIA.
Well, it comes out of Freemasonry. So
Freemasonry, that's what it was.
Yeah, the Italian armies that were recruited by Garibaldi were all in the Masonic lodges, and so he found revolutionaries to fight for him, the mafiosi, and they had been inducted into Freemasonry. And Garibaldi was influenced by Mazzini, who was kind of like the Albert Pike Freemason of Europe of that time. So that's where they got the Omerta ritual, the oath and all that being brought in rituals from Freemasonry. Yeah.
And Albert Pike, I mean, he created the 33 degrees of Freemasonry. I mean, he was the architect of what they practice today. And, they said Albert Pike had some sort of ring that gave him special powers. What do you think about Albert Pike? And have you ever heard that story that he wore this ring that supposedly gave him special powers?
Well, Masons like to tell these kind of fantastical tales like that. So I wouldn't put much stock in their kind of outlandish stories. I mean, they claim to have done everything and invented everything, which is just, they tell a lot of bullshit lies. So I don't buy that. However, I will say that there is an interesting story about rings and magical rings in the history of America. If you go kind of bring this full circle back to the point with David Lynch and Twin Peaks, if you get Mark Frost's book, The History of Twin Peaks, Secret History of Twin Peaks, it goes into L. Ron Hubbard, it goes into Scientology, it goes into Jack Parsons, and it goes into magic rings, because if you remember in Twin Peaks, it's everybody who's kind of in that circle of Laura's dad wears that magical ring. And I think it references it references Crowley having this magic ring. It might reference Albert Pike having a ring.
The ring came from something. It was like King Arthur's ring or something. It was from like, it had this magnificent, it supposedly had a lineage to something they could go back to.
Right.
And it was like, so, I mean, I don't know. And they said that, I mean, we're talking about a stupid ring. We get in the weeds, we get deep in the rabbit hole, but I love talking about this stuff. So I definitely need to look into that.
Mr. Frodo. Okay. Mr. Frodo, don't talk about the ring anymore.
Lord of the Rings. Now that's one I didn't watch. Are you a big
Primetime Stein inside of Mordor.
Primetime Stein 99. Okay, we're our first. Let's have our first caller. We're gonna have Mark on. Mark is a good buddy of mine. Mark, welcome to the. It's gonna take a second. Always takes a second. Pop out. Come on, Mark. He's joining. Let me do this right here. And we're and that's I'm telling you, Jay. Thank you for coming on. I know it's been a pleasure. I don't want to keep you too long. So, we're going to get some questions in. I don't want to ruin your night. Mark, welcome to the Conspiracy Castle.
What's going on?
Your audio's all messed up. You're not using the right speaker.
I'm sorry.
Now, dude's using a jigsaw as a speaker.
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Talk. No, it sounds all fucked up.
Don't talk into your jigsaw, dude.
Just talk like that. Now it's fine. It's fine like that. Just don't talk into the mic. Talk like that.
Okay. You can hear me.
No, it's still fucked up. What the fuck?
All right, hold on. Sorry. How about now?
It's a little better.
Okay.
You're quiet. Just go ahead. We'll make it work. Let me turn the audio up. I think I can turn your audio up full blast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mark, how you doing, man?
Alex, I'm on the road. I don't have my normal setup. Jay, thank you for being here. How you doing, Jay?
Doing good, dude. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I booked you on Tinfoil Hat, and one of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about on that episode was the 5 mafia families, and you guys were talking about the Sopranos, so I figured you might want to bring that up. I know that's something you've been getting into recently.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean that's something I've been diving into that ties into the world of the serial killers. It ties into the secret societies, like you said, like the mob. Its origins, the Sicilian mafia, comes out of the revolution in Italy in terms of Garibaldi being influenced by Freemasonry. And so they take those Masonic rituals and they kind of bring it into their version, I guess you could say, of a secret society. And so they operate in the exact same way. And then there's a whole, wild history to this about how they came to the U.S. And a lot of people don't know that in many cases, the top mobsters actually work directly with the CIA, naval intelligence, military intelligence in America. And they did this for a long time. In fact, Sam Giancana worked with the CIA. He was the head of the Chicago outfit. A lot of people think that was what happened to JFK. Like, he was involved in kind of contracting out, being contracted out to be involved in the JFK event. Santos Trafficante was connected to that. Dan Mitrione of the CIA paid Trafficante and Sam Giancana, I think, $160,000 supposedly for killing Castro, or perhaps JFK as well. And then, of course, the rise of Vegas, that's tied to intelligence with Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky worked with the CIA. It was Lansky and Bugsy Siegel that set up Vegas. Don Vito Genovese worked with the military to help the U.S. win in terms of operations against Mussolini. So that's just an unknown arena. A lot of people just don't know that the CIA has worked. I mean, I got a book with me right now about the whole history of the CIA working with the mob. But so a lot of people think that like drug trafficking, like that you might have heard of the CIA being involved in drug trafficking, but the way they do it is with organized crime, because they work with organized crime. So that's why this is so relevant. And then the reason it ties to the serial killers is that, I mean, the mob even had their own guild of serial killers, or you could call serial killers, which are contract killers, right? Murder Inc., right? So Murder Inc. was just a guild of contract killers and assassins that they could call up at any time. And then I think some of the serial killers also function in that way too. Manson, Charles Ng, probably, Henry Lee Lucas, Hand of Death cult, they were definitely involved in some contract killings. And even some of the serial killers themselves confessed to be contract killers for organized crime.
Well, and we know when you look at the Iran-Contra and you look at the CIA was selling drugs, with Nicaragua and trading guns for drugs, that they have, once the CIA gets these drugs, they have to give them to Mafia, Freeway Ricky Ross. They have to give them to outlets to get them on the street. So whether you guys want to believe it or not, if somebody's listening to this right now, the CIA doesn't work with drug dealers.
Yeah,
no,
you gotta
they
distribute
do.
It. Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, and you know how they drop it off? They drop a van off in the middle of Atlanta, and like somebody just knows to go get the van full of dope. It's that simple. People think it's like so hard. They literally drop a car full of dope. You don't know who dropped it off. You go pick up the car. There you go. It's that fucking simple. And it just pisses me off. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to cuss because you are a scholarly gentleman. But I'm just saying, it just pisses me off when people say, oh, the CIA's involved with the mafia. And I obviously believe you, but somebody would say, oh, you're a fucking liar. It's like, no. We're the opposite of that. We're the ones
there was a whole Tom Cruise movie about this. Go watch them. What was it? American Made, remember?
American Made, yeah. It's literally
about Barry Seal,
Seal.
right? Yeah, exactly.
So
do you remember the 80s movie with Air America with Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson?
No, that sounds so good. I need to see it. Air America.
Go watch it. It's the CIA's drug airline in the 80s. Well, it's taking place during like Vietnam War. It's the 70s, but the movie came out in the 80s. It's a well-known 80s movie about Air America, which was the CIA's drug airline.
And we know like cocaine and stuff in the 80s was like no big deal. I mean, it was just so rampant. I mean, it was just a proper operating procedure for people to snort cocaine. From what my parents tell me, maybe they just use that as an excuse because my parents were junkies, but I don't know. They're not junkies, but you know what I mean? Maybe at the time they were partying. Okay, Mark, we got another caller calling in. Anything else you want to say to the fabulous Jay Dyer before you go?
No, it's been a pleasure, Jay. I'd love to have you back on Tinfoil Hat again, and even my show. My family thinks I'm crazy, so I'll be in touch. And
it's not just your family. It's not just your family. I think you're crazy as well, Mark. So remember that.
Well, you've been getting to know me a little better now, Alex.
Yeah,
so maybe But either
Not
way,
just your
thanks, Jay.
family.
Take it
You
easy.
should
man,
maybe
I'd love to come
everybody.
back on.
And what's the next book that's coming out, Jay? What can we look forward to?
I'm going to probably print a book of my old essays, and I'm working on another book related to philosophy. And then hopefully eventually I'll do a Esoteric Hollywood Part 3.
Yeah,
You
see,
ever
that's what
gonna-
I'm saying. No. Shut up, Mark. Sorry. This is my complaint to you, Jay. Esoteric Hollywood 2, not the remix, not the Deuce, not.
No, Part 3.
No, I know, but I'm saying you already did 2. Why did you
Right.
name it 2? Why not the remix, the Deuce? I'm just saying, a guy as
You, Jay.
creative as you, I can't
Well-
believe you only went Esoteric 2. That's my only complaint.
I don't know. It'll be a trilogy, so I'll come up with
So I
something
guess you
different
have to
trilogy
do it
for you.
like that. I know. I'm just complaining because I just thought you'd have some freaking like esoteric universe. I don't know, dude. I don't know. It just seems like you read. This is another thing, Jay. How do you read all these books? And you lift up your book, and that's one thing. Another thing I'm disappointed I'm not getting. Bookshelf Jay Dyer. Bookshelf Jay Dyer is elite. Jay Dyer. I'm getting.
Well, I'm in Florida, dude. I'm at Boomer.
I know,
Town.
I
Look
know,
at this
I
art
know.
on the wall, dude. This is like the most Boomer Florida
Is-
art
is that-
ever. So.
Is that like an Airbnb art?
Yeah, it's
going
just
on?
like generic wheat flowing in the wind.
Okay, we got another caller, but I got to ask you the question. So when you show me a book and you're reading 1,000, you were talking the other day about how you read 1,000-page book. How do you literally sit down? And I read the news every day. I mean, I like to read a little. I'm not like saying I'm anti-reading. I don't really read like you. But how long does it take you to read a 1,000-page book, Jay?
Well, the last 1,000-page book that I read was Tragedy and Hope, and that took a long time. I'm still working through another 1,000-page book called the book by David Wimhoff on John Courtney Murray, and that one I'm about halfway through that. So it just depends on how interested I am in the topic. If it's something I'm really interested in, I can do it pretty quick. But if it's something that's kind of boring and technical, it might take a long time. I don't know. Tragedy and Hope did take a long time. I had to really work through that.
I mean, that's a lot of reading. I mean, and I respect you, Jay. That just shows you how disciplined you are. I just can't believe the knowledge that some of the books you dive into. I just like what I'm saying is I don't have the balls to even do that, even to crack it open like I'm being serious. Brian, you're on the show. Welcome to the Conspiracy Castle. What do you got for Jay Dyer this evening?
So you guys were talking about Vatican I and II earlier, and I haven't looked into it yet, but I've heard that it has to do with the Jays infiltrating it, not the Jesuits, if you catch my drift. What are your thoughts on that?
Vatican I is prior to any of that kind of infiltration theory, basically. I mean, unless you believe that there's something earlier than that with like Jesuits or something like that. Vatican I was about papal infallibility, so it didn't have anything to do with that. Vatican II, yes, people theorize that Vatican II was also partly due to that.
Okay. And
Do you think that, Jay? Do you think that, Jay, that's possible? That they could have
there's
influenced it?
essays in Look magazine that do describe the fact that the Jews had a lobby at Vatican II where they wanted documents like Nostra Aetate to be passed, because Nostra Aetate has a favorable view of the idea that Jews and Catholics and Muslims all worship the same God. So there is evidence of Nostra Aetate having a lobby behind it, yes.
Okay, yeah, this is something I've been digging into, is that that Jesus may not, that his Father, the Most High, may not be the Lord of the Old Testament, Yahweh. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And
well, that's an early church, we would say a heresy called Marcionism. And if you look at the Gospel of John, for example, in John 5, Jesus identifies the Father of the Old Testament as his Father. And he says that the whole Old Testament was about him. In fact, he even says in John 5 that he was at Mount Sinai talking to Moses. So I would have to disagree with that.
okay. So I've also been seeing this one verse over and over. So the beast is described as the leopard, the lion, and the bear, right? And I believe there's a book in the New Testament that describes Yahweh as the lion, the leopard, and the bear.
So the usage of this is in Daniel and Jeremiah in the Old Testament, and it's describing the world empires. So there's a succession of world empires that leads up to the Roman Empire, right? And so these four world empires are pictured either as segments in Daniel's image. There's like four segments to the image, and then the last empire is Rome, or it's four beasts, and the last beast is Rome. And so Jesus, for example, is prophesied in Daniel to be born in that under the rule of that last empire or that last beast. And I believe that when John is writing the Apocalypse, he's writing to the first century Christians to be warned about the beast that existed in that day in Rome, Nero. So I think John's talking about Nero. If you look at Nero in terms of an anagram or in terms of gematria, his name comes out to 666. So I think Nero is the best fit for 666 in terms of the first century. And that actually makes sense in terms of the immediate context, the audience he was writing for, because John says at the beginning of the Apocalypse that the things in this book are shortly to come to pass. And he's writing it to 7 actual churches in Asia Minor. So the book makes the most sense in terms of its historical context about what Christians at that time were about to experience. So what you're talking about, though, with different names is what we would call, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's what's called the word concept fallacy. And that's the idea that a symbol or a word can refer to different things and have different contexts. So, for example, a lion, right? Satan is pictured like a lion devouring his prey, prowling around devouring his prey, according to Peter. And Jesus is also called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So it's just different contexts, different symbols signifying different things for different reasons, right? So we call God a rock. We call the church a rock. It's just symbolic language. It's not identifying in every case God with the beast, or because the word is used in 2 different contexts. It's called the word concept fallacy.
Okay.
Isn't that like, so real quick, Brian, now I want to give you, that's a question. Isn't that similar like the serpent seed theory? I mean, I know that's a different theory, but like, what do you think about that, Jay? Is that in the, I mean, I'm just curious.
I think that's a crazy cult idea that the
people have asked about it.
The descendants of Satan are not biological people sprung. It's talking about the spiritual descendants of, that's anybody who doesn't follow Christ. Christ says is spiritually of Satan. He's not talking about your biological lineage.
Okay, go ahead, Brian. Sir.
Just the last point I want to make is, don't you find it strange that the God of the Old Testament is extremely wrathful and that Jesus seems to be very forgiving, and that it almost seems like they're trying to tell us a story that God kind of like grew up, and that just seems very human-like to me and not like the eternal creator. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So I did a whole live stream addressing just this question. It's called Bible Contradictions, Old Testament versus New Testament. And I think that's actually a big misconception. I think that there's plenty of verses in the Old Testament that talk about God's love. You could read Leviticus 17, 18, 19, where God says, love your neighbor as yourself. It's the very thing that Jesus talks about in Matthew 5 in the Beatitudes. And there's plenty of texts in the New Testament, in the Gospels, the parables, where Jesus warns about his own judgment and the wrath that he will bring. And the Apocalypse talks about the wrath of the Lamb. So I think that that's just a mischaracterization.
Okay. All right.
Well, Brian, anything else before I let you go? You asked some hardcore. What is your theory, Brian? So you think God in the First Testament is different than Jesus, is what you think?
I think that El Elyon, the Most High, the Father that Jesus refers to, is a different God outside of this physical realm, and that Jesus came in here to save us from this Yahweh, Saturn, moon, time.
So literally like Superman. So literally like the story of Superman.
That's what's his face? Jared,
I mean, he came from
something about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying God. So you're telling me so God sent Jesus here from? Well, I mean, I get it. I like it. I mean, everybody has their different.
I put in the chat the live stream I did about addressing that question. So
okay, yeah, I'll check it out.
Please go check it out. All right. Thanks for coming on, Brian. Okay, well, let me tell you something, Jay. It's been, and let's kind of wrap this up in the next 10 minutes if we can, because it's been, and dude, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. But like, I want to say this. What do you think this is what I believe, and we're getting into spiritual stuff, but you look at, and I don't know enough about the Bible, so you're gonna make funny, but Genesis chapter 11 verse 9, if that's the Tower of Babel. If you flip that, that's 9/11. And the Tower of Babel, it's a story about, obviously this better than me, Nimrod trying to build a kingdom to heaven to try to kill God, right? That's kind of just like the cliff notes of it. And so what I believe now is the modern day Tower of Babel. Once they get us under one ruler, that ruler is Satan. That is the world. And so then we're literally we're killing God by becoming under one rule. It's like that is literally how they are going to kill God, is once they get us under one rule. What do you think about that, Jay?
Well, there's definitely a parallel to the idea of all of the world being under one ruler, Nimrod, and this tower is intended to signify the unity of all humanity, right? Under one sort of pagan rulership. And then the image that's used in Daniel and Jeremiah of the four successive beasts is capturing that same idea, right? Because those pagan world empires wanted to have everybody under one sort of idolatrous world religious system. And that's definitely what we're seeing trying to be re-erected today. And from my vantage point, that backs up the Bible, right? Because the Bible is consistently telling us not that the creator God is evil, but that the fallen angel Satan is evil, and he's the one that tries to deceive us, to get us to do wicked things, to violate the Ten Commandments. And Jesus is the good God. He's the one that's actually the creator God. If you read John 1, it's Jesus that is the creator, right? Jesus isn't the one who's a demiurge, an evil person imprisoning us. So, I mean, contrary to what that guy that was just here, I would suggest he read the Gospel of John, because John 1, the first chapter, shows that Jesus is the creator. So if he's going to say that this world is created by an evil God, a Saturn or whatever, then he's going to have to figure out what John 1 is talking about, because Jesus is the creator.
No, I think God is good. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But this is another thing when I was talking about hiding the creator. When you look at Hillary's leaked emails, and she's talking about sacrificing chicken to Moloch, these people are obsessed with this Babylonian pagan society. And we can get into that. That's another question. This is an anti-Christian thing where people get mad about this. What do you think about Christmas trees? I mean, isn't that as pagan as it gets? Doesn't it specifically say not to cut down a tree and put a bunch of gold and twine on it and worship it?
Well, that chapter in Jeremiah is not talking about a Christmas tree. It's talking about chopping down a tree and carving it into some form of a pagan deity. No, it's just a symbol. That the Christmas tree is just, it's an evergreen, so it's symbolic of everlasting life. I mean, we have all kinds of like harmless traditions like this in culture that we still do that might have had origins in, quote, paganism, like the wedding ring. Wearing a wedding ring is a Roman tradition. The names of the week have the origins in Roman pagan traditions, but we don't sit around being superstitious and not celebrating birthdays because some cultures believe birthdays were connected to astrology. I mean, it's just silly, I think, to go that far with it. And there's nothing wrong with reinterpreting or repurposing symbols that aren't in themselves bad. I am gonna have to go now, though. I've got some other things I've got to go do tonight. But
okay, no, I'll let you go. Did I hope I didn't make you upset asking that question?
No, not upset. I do debates all the time. Why would I be upset?
I'm not debating at all, and I'm not debating you at all.
I'm saying this wouldn't upset me if I do debates.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I just want to say, dude, thank you for coming on. Well, this is my last question. You were talking about De Beers. Sure. Can I ask you just one more question? What is the connection? Okay, De Beers created the engagement ring was totally bullcrap. That was basically created by De Beers because they had a surplus of diamonds. So
wearing a wedding ring.
Oh, I know the pagan thing. I know, but I'm not even talking about that. Forget that. I don't think Christmas is fine. Celebrate Christmas. I'm not anti-Christmas, Jay. I'm not trying to say that. I just thought that I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a contrarian. I've read that. I just I asked that question. But what I'm talking about, the De Beers thing is, aren't they some of the biggest social engineers in the world? Jay, is the De Beers people? Is that, I heard you talking about that, or am I off? Was that not you talking about De Beers?
They did. They do control a market, right? I mean, they're involved in controlling that market because I think diamonds are semi-precious. They're not actually that rare, but they control that market to control the supply, which helps the price, go up. And yeah, I think they've been involved in, social engineering and selling the idea that you need to, get this outlandish, diamond for a wedding ring or whatever. I mean, but that's just kind of what corporations do. I mean, they do go back to, I think, the, Cecil Rhodes and the Royal Society setting up, basically the slave labor camps in Africa and all that. So that's the origins of them, is Cecil Rhodes. Yeah, if I recall.
Well, Jay, thank you for coming on. I hope I didn't get mad at that stupid Christmas tree.
I'm not mad.
I'm like,
I'm just saying.
cool.
I do have to go here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not mad.
No. It's been great. We've been an hour and a half. I'm going to upload this on the podcast. So if you guys can see, RSS feed, and I don't think we talked about anything too bad. So I'm going to be able to leave the live stream up without having to edit it. And I just want to say before you go, guys, everybody needs to go to jaysanalysis.com. You guys need to check out that. You can also go to Rockfin. You can join Rockfin. You can follow Jay on Rockfin. You can also follow him on YouTube. He's over 75,000 subs. And weren't you deleted when you had 100 subs or something? Haven't you had a channel deleted, or was that on Instagram, Jay?
No, I was demonetized a year ago, and then I had my website deleted 2 years ago from the WordPress. So I learned the hard way not to rely on a third party to host my website. So no, I have my own website now. I have for 2 years.
Well, everybody needs to go support Jay. Dude, like I said, man, I've really looked up to a lot of the information you're putting out, your channel, especially all the Hollywood stuff. The connection with Dave McGowan for me was a real eye-opening thing. And it was really interesting because that's the problem in society right now. They want to make, in the truth community, at least, pop culture is lame, but it's still interesting. I still grew up watching these movies. So listening to you talk about it and decode it is always interesting, and I think some of your best work is the Eyes Wide Shut, and we look at these parties where I'm just saying, dude, this is real. These are real things, and Eyes Wide Shut, my last one thing I want to say is truth in the movies, lies in the news. So you can learn a lot by going and watching Jay's analysis of literally Moonraker. You can learn, you're like, what the fuck? Jay's talking about an old movie from the 70s, James Bond, and you're going to actually see all the connections to today, and it's going to put a light bulb and be like, this isn't an accident. Nothing's an accident. And last question, because we're talking about how old's the Earth? How old's the Earth? How old do you think? How old do you think the Earth is?
I favor the younger view.
Me too. Yeah, we're not. It's not old because carbon dating is absolute garbage. Anything else you want to say before you go, Jay?
No, just look for me on the Fourth Hour of Alex Jones. You can follow me on, as you said, YouTube. I do an archived lectures and talks for people that are interested in learning the global elites books and all that. I summarize that. You can get that for $4.95 a month. And then my books, signed copies at the shop at Jay's Analysis. If you want to support my work and get Stark Hollywood 1 and 2 signed copies. And one last thing was my Rockfin channel. So I've been doing a lot of content over at Rockfin, and they're a really solid free speech based platform. Sam Tripoli's over there, Richard Grove's over there, Whitney Webb, Isaac Weishaupt, Tristan, all my buddies are over there.
Well, I hope I could be friends with you, Jay, in the future, because I look up to you, bud. So thank you, my friend. Thank you for coming on the castle, and it's been an honor. So, with that, peace and good night, Jay.